That's number one. You kind of reset.
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
Same shoulder length, and the other. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Real Health with Brandi and Amir. I am Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor, and this is Brandi Rashidian, my other half, and the one that makes the podcast fun to listen to. Actually, people have said that. So,
what?
Oh yeah,
I have not heard that.
You know, because I think I just read and then you give all the color. So, anyways,
fun.
Thank you for being here and
being colorful.
Yeah, and thank you for being in my life. I mean, all of that.
Ditto.
So Real Health Podcast is where we look at the latest news regarding health and wellness, good or bad news, and we bring that to you. We'll read the articles, summarize them, talk about what they mean, how they apply to your life, and how to use that information to make your lives better. And by better, we mean our goal for you is that you feel better, you get stronger, you live longer, and you always feel younger.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. One of our team members, her dad has gotten under care, and he's been driving down from Pennsylvania to see us twice a week, which is
As a
really
patient,
fantastic. Yep. And so he sent a text to his daughter last week after, he'd received his first couple of adjustments and he had a trip. And he said, "Oh my goodness, I just got off this long flight and I feel great." He goes, "I feel 15 again." Like usually when he gets off of these long flights, he feels stiff and terrible and, much older than what he even is. And so she forwarded that text to us, and I just thought that was so neat because that is what we want for people. We want
Feel younger than your
everybody
age,
to feel younger, because man, that feels good.
Without drugs and surgery.
100%.
Naturally.
Yep.
The way you were intended to live.
Absolutely.
Vitality, productivity, energy, strength.
Makes a big difference.
Mental clarity.
Yeah.
All that stuff. All that is health.
You don't really realize it. We have a friend who's in prep for upcoming bodybuilding competition. So he's bulking up right now. And he was like, this is a hard point where he's at because he's put on over 30 pounds, of muscle, probably a little bit of fat when you're bulking up too. But 30 pounds, he's like, and this is a guy who's super fit. I mean, you can imagine, some of you may know who I'm talking about. He's very well known in our arena.
Yeah. And we have videos with him on our YouTube channel. Yeah.
And so he was just like, this is hard. Like he goes, it's just what I would describe it. This wasn't his words, but like a turtle running in peanut butter. You know what I mean? You just feel heavy and bogged down. And he's even doing it for a competition, but it just goes to show, having that extra weight, carrying that, it does make a big difference. You just don't feel as good. So
even if it's muscle, huh?
Yeah. Even.
Yeah. He looks like he could pick up a house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Big guy. So, well, we have some really fun articles today. I'm excited about the first one that we're going to start with, especially for me. Like, this is what medicine is about, right? We talk about trying to do things naturally and holistically as much as you can. We want to always try to sidestep surgery and medication if possible, because there are side effects to that, negative side effects, right? And so, but there are times where, medicine is necessary, and this is one of those. And so I just think this is a fun one. So we're going to talk about some babies and small kids who are actually being saved by some really cool new medical technology. So you ready to dive in?
Reminds me of a movie called Something the Lord Made.
Oh, that was a great film.
It was a movie about blue babies.
Not very well known.
No, it's not, but please watch it. It's a great movie. It's how during the time of segregation, a black man invented the surgery that saved the blue babies. Blue babies had that hole in their heart, and the blood vessels connected. You had to separate the blood vessels so that the blue blood, which was the non-oxygenated blood, could go to the lungs, right, and the oxygenated blood could go to the body. Yeah. And he was able to separate that. He wasn't even a doctor, but he studied. He wasn't allowed to go to medical school. In fact, even when he was assisting in these surgeries, which the surgeon who got credit for it was letting him do the surgeries, even then, he had to walk into the servants' entrance into Johns Hopkins University and Johns Hopkins Hospital.
That's
And
terrible.
yeah,
But he did great things. We won't tell you what the end is because there's some great stuff that happens at the end. He's definitely honored, in at the end. But go grab that movie. It's really really
the
it's a
movie is
great
called
movie.
Something the Lord Made.
Yep.
Anyways, good acting too. Anyways, this article is from CNN. Groundbreaking procedure allows heart repairs to grow with children. How cool is that? The heart
It's so
repair
neat.
grows with children. So it's about this little kid. His name is Owen Monroe. He was 18 days old when he made history, becoming the first person in the world to receive a partial heart transplant. His groundbreaking surgery, performed in 2022, even captured the attention of Hollywood scriptwriters who wove his story into a recent episode of the long-running medical drama Grey's Anatomy.
I didn't even know that was still on.
We used to watch it
We did.
before
That's
it got
hilarious.
too drama
Oh,
driven.
yeah.
Anyways, too much drama in that show now, but we loved it before. We
Yeah.
watched every
Some cool
episode.
cases.
First like 87 seasons.
Right.
And yeah. In a study published Tuesday in the Journal of American Medical Association, his doctors will document another milestone. For the first time, the tissue used to fix Owen's heart has grown, a long sought goal of this type of repair. At the time of his first operation, Owen's heart was the size of a strawberry. Today, at 20 months of age, it's about the size of an apricot, and the new valves and blood vessels have kept up with his growth, which means, unlike most children born with the same defect, he may not need to have more risky heart surgeries throughout his life.
Yeah, so
Now,
this is so cool because this technology, if it continues to show great signs, means that it reduces the number of open heart surgeries that these kids will have to have over their life, which is just amazing. That's
absolutely.
unbelievable.
Absolutely. Now, this article, I think I highlighted a lot of it because there's a lot of information in there. So there's a lot of reading in this. If you want to stop me, you're welcome to. It says researchers have been working to make growing heart valves a reality through tissue engineering, germinating them from cells in a lab. That approach has worked in animals, but it has not yet panned out in humans. This is a huge advance, Dr. Kathleen Fenton, Chief of Advanced Technologies and Surgery branch of the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute said. Fenton said, "You have to follow these children in the long term and see what really happens. But there is, I think, every reason to hope that it's really going to be a groundbreaking advance for a subset of children that don't otherwise have good options."
Yeah.
So, since Owen's surgery, 12 other partial heart transplants have been performed in children, including 9 at Duke, the hospital that developed the operation. The technique has also enabled domino transplants, a split root transplant, which allows a single donor heart to save the lives of 2 critically ill infants. In a domino transplant, the first child born with a weak heart muscle that can't adequately pump blood gets a whole donated heart, while the second baby gets the healthy blood vessels and valves from the first infant. In a split root transplant, the functioning parts of a heart are donated to 2 infants. How cool is that?
Just
So
amazing.
the first child's heart's not working properly, but the valves are healthy and the blood vessels are healthy. So they take out the valves and the blood vessels from the sick child, give it to another sick child, and then that sick child gets a brand new heart.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I love it. I love it. Dr. Joseph Turek, Chief of Pediatric Heart Surgery at Duke Health, is the surgeon who created the partial heart transplant. There are 500 pediatric heart transplants that we do a year in this country. 500.
It's amazing.
And so far, the vast majority of those kids getting hearts, they would have available their old hearts. So their old hearts would have been used for other children. We could use their valves. So my guess is this could help over 1,000 kids a year, hopefully.
That's so neat. Such an answer to so many prayers for those parents who are you know,
Yeah.
waiting, and
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's a tough wait.
I mean, I really enjoyed this article. It talks about the parents, Owen's parents, Nick and
Hmm.
Taylor Monroe. They learned that he had a serious heart defect when they went in. They went for an in-depth ultrasound exam at his 20th week of development. So he's still in utero. Owen had a rare birth defect called truncus arteriosus. Normally, people have two major blood vessels coming out of the tops of their hearts. One, the pulmonary artery, sends blue blood that's depleted of oxygen to the lungs to pick up more, while the other, which is the aorta, sends oxygen rich red blood to fuel the rest of the body. With truncus arteriosus, which affects about 250 babies born in the U.S. each year, these two vessels are fused, allowing oxygenated and deoxygenated blood to mix. They are also lacking a valve needed to keep blood from flowing backward. And many with this condition are born with a hole between the bottom two pumping chambers of their hearts. Babies with truncus arteriosus are often in distress soon after birth. Too much blood flows into their lungs, straining the tiny air sacs. Because their blood isn't well oxygenated, they may look blue and work harder to breathe.
Wow. I mean, if you can just imagine those parents having to go through, almost half of their pregnancy, knowing that their child is going to have a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
So,
That's what Nick Monroe, the dad, said. Even before he was born, we knew that he was going to have open heart surgery very young, and then was probably going to have a handful of surgeries before he was a teenager, and then a couple more after that throughout his life.
yeah.
But Owen's case was even more serious. Normally, when a child has truncus arteriosus, surgeons need to replace only the pulmonary heart valve they weren't born with. They're often able to save and use the single valve the child does have to serve as their aortic valve. But in Owen's case, even the one valve he had didn't work well. A doctor who saw his first post birth ultrasound thought Owen would need a full heart transplant. But the next day, Turek approached Owen's parents and presented an alternative. This is great.
Yeah. I love the candor too that he has, that they report this
Yeah.
conversation between the doctor and the parents.
Go ahead and read it. It's
So, he said he'd when he
pretty cool.
yeah, when he approached the parents, he said that he'd been practicing this new technique that would replace just the defective parts of Owen's heart with living vessels and a valve from a recently deceased donor. Taylor Monroe, Owen's mom, asked the doctor how many times he had done this procedure. And he said, "I've done it 5 times on piglets." I mean, think about that as a parent, right? And I love the humility actually that this doctor says that with, because so it feels like so many would want to build themselves up and go, "No, I got this, I got this." The reality is you've never done it on a human. I've done it on piglets, but this is like the best chance to give your child this opportunity and maybe not have to have a lot of additional surgeries. So Turk told them that if everything went well, Owen wouldn't need any more open heart surgeries. If he repaired Owen's heart using frozen valves harvested from cadavers, their son only had a 50% survival. So Monroe said that they realized how that it was risky, but they also knew that their son might not survive any other way. He was already in heart failure. The hospital couldn't give him a life-saving heart-lung bypass called ECMO because his damaged heart wouldn't be able to handle it. So they had no emergency care that they could give any more than they already were. Everybody always always says to us, it must have been such a hard decision. But when your backs are against the wall and then your surgeon says, well, here's a lifeline, you take the chance. He said, we saw it was the best opportunity for our son to have a chance of survival. So they all agreed on the partial transplant, and then they waited. It's amazing.
Yeah. So they had to wait for a heart. So every day he was looking so jaundiced, and he could feel the tension on the we could feel the tension on the floor every time we had rounds. How it was weighing on everybody. Monroe said the entire staff of that unit, all the nurses, all the fellows, all the doctors, gosh, every time they're like, there's no chance, no good news. And Owen's mom is an ICU nurse.
That's the worst.
She's
because,
a pediatric ICU
yes.
nurse.
So you already know the stats. You
Yeah.
know
She knows what all the
potential,
numbers mean on the computer and all the beeping and all of that.
and
She
to
knows
have to
that.
separate
Yeah.
that, the dichotomy internally that you have with knowing what you know and then having to be that parent also, it is very tough. So my heart goes out to them.
Yeah, it says she would cry in the shower.
Yeah. After more than 2 weeks, they got their first jolt of hope. The hospital had found a matching heart. The donor's heart muscle wasn't suitable for transplant, but the valves and blood vessels might help Owen. The staff relayed the good news on the morning of April 22nd of 2022, and by 3 p.m., Owen was in surgery. That's just amazing. So they said that the whole surgery, they couldn't even focus on anything. They were kind of just staring out into space. And then around midnight, the surgeon, Turek, came out and said the procedure was finished and everything went really well.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
The hours of waiting.
Yeah. So they said that since then, there's been no stopping Owen. He is now a happy, active toddler who is meeting his developmental milestones. The most amazing thing about the whole experience is it's almost as if his body was ready to go and was like, this is the only thing that's wrong with me. Just fix my heart and I'm good to go. So amazing.
Yeah, incredible. And the fact that he doesn't need more surgeries, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he talked about how when there's transplants, sometimes the immune system rejects the tissue, but usually the immune system attacks the heart muscle, not the valves.
Right.
So if the heart muscle is the original heart muscle for that child and only the valves were replaced, he doesn't need a lot of immune suppressants.
Yeah.
He needs very little immune suppressants, which is another good thing. And the article actually talked about another child who didn't need any immune suppressants.
Which is unbelievable.
After the surgery, and the hearts and the vessels are going to grow with the child.
Because that's the hard thing, because you're always kind of walking a tightrope, I'm sure is what it feels, because you have to take this medication to suppress the immune system, so your immune system, your body doesn't begin to reject, that organ that wasn't created by itself. So to be able to, but in that, you run the risk of getting sick a lot because your immune system is depressed all the time. So this is just the best of both worlds.
It's amazing. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Kudos to these doctors. Kudos to
great
medicine,
job.
Medical technology that's advancing and all of that. And thank you for all that you do, you guys. I mean, those surgeries, you can imagine that surgeon was on his feet operating for, I don't know how many hours, but
Hours on
if
end.
the surgery started in the morning and he didn't come out till midnight, that surgeon was on his feet operating all day.
Yeah, and that's not his only patient.
And at 20 months old, the article says they would right now be planning his third surgery if they had used a different technique.
That is just crazy. So here we are again talking about the FDA.
And supplements this time. So, which is interesting because the FDA does not regulate supplements, which is probably why this stuff happens. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
U.S. News. The supplement is called Tejocote.
We're just going to let him say that today.
Spelled with a J. Tejocote. Tejocote supplements sold online at Amazon, Etsy may contain fatal poison, according to the FDA. And Tejocote weight loss supplements sold online through Amazon or Etsy could contain a highly toxic substance the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is warning. FDA tests revealed that capsules labeled as Tejocote instead contained yellow oleander, a poisonous plant native to Mexico and Central America. The FDA found yellow oleander in 9 different products labeled as Tejocote. The agency said those products were purchased through Amazon, Etsy, and online natural food or supplement retailers. Ingestion of yellow oleander can cause neurologic, gastrointestinal, and cardiovascular adverse health effects that may be severe or even fatal. Symptoms may include nausea, vomiting, dizziness, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and heart rhythm problems. Tejocote, also known as Mexican hawthorn root, has been promoted through social media for weight loss, according to U.S. CDC. So, basically, I guess this is the next fad, and I actually hadn't heard of it. Have you heard of Tejocote?
I hadn't, but there is so much that gets pushed on social media.
Yeah.
That you really have to do your due diligence and do your research. And I would be super knowing, and we are super cautious about getting anything off the shelf or through
Online
Amazon
retailers, even Amazon. I mean, I guess they do look at the stuff before they list them on Amazon, but
I don't know what
Amazon is basically like Walmart. I mean, you have
It is.
supplement or a product, you say, can I sell it through you?
Yeah, it's I don't think it's that difficult. I don't know what the requirements are. Obviously, it's not stringent enough, but Amazon is not going to do more than what the FDA does,
Right.
right? And if the FDA does not um, look at supplements, I mean, we know from our own research that, and this is multivitamins, anything sold commercially, is that the FDA, the rule is you have to have trace amounts of what is on the label in your product. So they don't even say that you need to have full potency. If this is what's on the label, you must have that in the product, which feels weird to me as it is. So not only do we not manage it, but we already give them the okay to move forward, right? Not managing that process at all. I don't know. I would be super cautious about buying anything.
Yeah, especially weight loss. Weight loss. Concerns about the supplement arose in September of 2022 after a 23-month-old New Jersey toddler developed nausea, vomiting, slowed heart rate, and low blood pressure after getting into the mom's Tejocote capsules. The New Jersey Poison Information and Education System subsequently purchased 10 different Tejocote products online and found that 9 of the 10 contained yellow oleander. And the FDA says it is concerned that there are more products touted as Tejocote that instead contain yellow oleander. Tejocote also is sold under the names including, how do you pronounce this one? Crataegus mexicana, raised de Tejocote, and Mexican hawthorn.
Yeah.
Watch out for those, and don't take any chances.
And just know anything that's promising a quick fix,
Yeah.
that's not where we need to be headed. If somebody really, really wants to lose weight and stay motivated, I wish I could say it can happen without hard work. But it really doesn't. It's not sustainable. Anything that you do that's on a fad kind of diet.
Yeah, you got to understand though, the hard work, you're doing the hard work anyways. Like if you're heavy, like you were heavier, so you've experienced this. When you're heavier, you're doing hard. It's hard work to get out of bed. It's hard work to get up off the
100%.
toilet. It's hard work to take care of yourself.
Just to carry the extra weight is hard.
So you're doing the hard work anyways.
Right.
Either way, it's hard.
Yeah. Might as well make it hard work with a great potential outcome.
I want you to imagine how proud of yourself you'll be when you overcome this.
Yeah.
I mean, just visualize it for a second. If you're someone who's considering taking some weird supplement to lose weight, just imagine you do it the hard way, but it's permanent and it didn't mess up your metabolism.
Right.
It didn't poison your body. And now you're on the other side of it and everybody's complimenting you and everyone's telling you, wow, fantastic job. How did you do it? And you'll tell them the truth. You say, it wasn't easy.
Right.
It was blood, sweat, and tears, lots of tears.
Yeah.
And you go, you know what? I'm glad I did it. You will be glad. And you will rejoice. Every time you wake up, you'll be like, wow, my new body is awesome.
Yep.
I love it. I'm so glad I did it. Anyways, moving on. This is NBC News. Another FDA to allow Florida to import prescription drugs in bulk from Canada. The FDA said Friday it will allow Florida to buy prescription drugs directly from wholesalers in Canada, a move that is intended to allow the cost of prescription drugs for residents in the state.
You might be surprised that pharmaceutical companies in the US are not happy about this. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if
I
we're-
laughed too soon. I tried to keep a straight face. And they are really, really worried about the quality
yeah.
that we might be getting.
It says prescription drugs are often much cheaper outside the United States and some states, including Florida, Vermont, and Colorado, have urged the federal government to allow them to import drugs from other countries. The FDA already permits individuals to buy prescription drugs from Canada under certain circumstances. So as an individual, you can do it, but now they want the states to be able to do it, or the states are asking to do it. The push to allow states to do so has been in the works for years. In 2019, the Trump administration announced preliminary plans to import drugs from Canada, asking states to come up with proposals on how to do so safely. In 2021, President Joe Biden issued an executive order directing the agencies to work with states on the importation plan. The FDA's new policy will allow Florida to purchase prescription drugs in bulk. The medications will be made available to its residents through various state-run healthcare programs such as Medicaid. Florida must meet certain requirements such as testing the drugs to ensure they are not counterfeit and relabeling the drugs to be consistent with FDA-approved labeling. So now they save money on the drug, but then they have to spend money testing it.
Yeah, but overall, it still is supposed to save the state. Check this out, $150 million annually.
That's good money.
150 million. I almost said thousand. That's not even a fraction. 150 million annually.
Yeah.
This should begin to force us to ask some even deeper questions. Like, why is it that our country has I mean, we produce and consume, right, more pharmaceuticals than most other countries, and we can't figure out how to save $150 million annually and from our
it says
own groups?
the U.S. prices for the 10 drugs that they're talking about, these 10 drugs, are 3 to 8 times higher compared to other countries of similar size and wealth. So similar size and wealth. I'll tell you why. Because United States is one of 2 countries in the world that allows pharmaceutical companies to advertise on television.
Mm. So what you're telling me is it's all supply and demand.
It is.
Right?
Because they create a supply, right? They create a demand.
Correct.
And then when the demand is high, they go, we can charge whatever we want.
Correct.
That's capitalism.
Right.
But in the wrong way.
Right.
You know, if I put a cookie here and only one person wants that cookie, I can't charge a lot of money. But if 20 people want the same cookie and there's only one, then I can say, well, now it's $100 for that cookie. Right. As opposed to $1 that I would have charged before.
Right. And then we tell pharmaceutical companies, you can't raise the prices over this, or you have to start like rebating it, reimbursing it, right?
Yeah, which is what we talked about in the last podcast.
Right. And then they're like, oh, well, we're just going to cancel the drug. And they wonder why states want to go to outside of the U.S. to another country because how it's set up, it's just bogus.
Yeah.
The only thing that it's doing is putting money into the pharmaceutical companies' pockets. Right. At the expense and at the cost of our patients' health and pocketbook. Seems ludicrous to me.
It is. They're talking about how getting Canada to agree to the importation is an obstacle. They previously have not been willing to do so because drug manufacturers will not sell them enough drugs to supply both U.S. and Canada. So it's so funny. The drug manufacturers like, no, we're going to give you just enough for you so that U.S. has to buy it from us themselves. And then we're going to charge U.S. 8 times more than we charge you. 3 to 8 times more. Unreal how this goes. So anyways.
So this is just one of the reasons that you want to try to sidestep medication. Right? Yeah. Not only because of the side effects, but because you're now involved in all of this rigmarole, all of this game playing to line their pockets. I think it's it's just
Cost
ludicrous.
of healthcare is enormous. Do you know that United States, now I saw this stat like 15 years ago, so I don't know how true it is today. The United States is 5% of the world's population. It's actually less than 5%. We're like 350 million out of 8 billion. So I don't know, what is that, 4%?
You're the mathematician.
4 to 5% of the world's population lives in this country, but this country consumes 50% of the world's production of pharmaceuticals. So 5% consumes 50% of the world's production of pharmaceuticals.
Well, and like you said, if we're advertising it, you know what I mean? And then we have all of these websites where you can Google what's wrong with you, and then all of these ads for these medications pop up, so you can very easily self-diagnose, walk into your doctor, and depending on the doctor that you're going to, you can say, I'm not feeling good, I'm pretty sure this is what I have, and then you can get that prescription written.
Right.
You know? So,
75,
and again, we know who's benefiting.
75% of the revenue that major TV stations earn or grow or make comes from pharmaceutical ads. 75%. So if they outlaw that, all of a sudden, imagine you lose 75% of your income. You got a business.
Right.
Moving on. One last one. Let's do one last one real quick. Actually, this might be fun.
This is fun.
This is okay. USA Today. Combat veterans took a psychedelic drug for PTSD. Then this happened.
That's a great headline.
Leave it to USA Today. Herb Daniels attempted suicide twice before he decided he'd try anything to make life livable again. The 52-year-old former Green Beret, salute to you, Herb. Thank you for your service. Had traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety, and had survived the loss of many fellow soldiers over the years, including some to suicide. He had turned to alcohol and prescription medications after his retirement in 2017. Neither dulled the excruciating fear and anxiety. In July 2022, Daniels booked a trip to Tijuana to become part of an experimental psychoactive treatment. He knew little about ibogaine. We talked about ibogaine at another podcast. It was like 10 podcasts ago. A psychedelic derived from the root bark of a plant from the African rainforest, and neither do many U.S. scientists.
So nobody knows a lot about this. So it's very much just beginning to be used for these purposes.
The reality is I could only lean on hope, said Daniels of Tacoma, Washington, because I really needed it to work if I was going to live. In findings published Friday in Nature Medicine, ibogaine appeared to reduce the symptoms of PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and improve cognitive function from traumatic brain injuries. For Daniels and the majority of more than 24 other Special Forces veterans who participated, the Stanford University study is among the first to explore the use of ibogaine to repair traumatic brain injury caused by head trauma or blast explosions.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So this has been something that's been gaining traction over the past couple of years, and I've seen it in news articles more and more that they're using these psychedelics, initially mushrooms and things like that. We've talked about that as well, are being used to treat these. A lot of it was more PTSD before, but now the big thing with ibogaine is that it's treating not only with some success so far the brain injury, but also the PTSD and anxiety and depression. So for something to be able to treat all of those things in one person is quite amazing. Now, this isn't something that they can just go out and get and do this at home. This absolutely is done in a clinical setting under the supervision of doctors and nurses. So they're in a hospital or a clinical setting. They're monitored the entire time. And after one dosing, these guys are getting fantastic results, which is amazing.
Oh, it's big. They were given Ibogaine pills based on their weight, with an average dose of just over a gram of Ibogaine given under the supervision of medical staff that included doctors, nurses, and EMTs. The dose was combined with an intravenous infusion of 1 gram of magnesium sulfate given before the pill, meant to address Ibogaine's risks in delaying normal electrical signals that control heart rhythm. Sounds risky, though, which can result in death. The Stanford study observed no side effects from the treatment, although some reported headaches and nausea. Well, this is why you're saying don't try to do it on your own.
Well, yeah,
even if you get some somehow.
I mean, it's the same type of thing with even like other hallucinogens like peyote and whatnot, right? Those are also done. I mean, they have groups that do those, but you have to have somebody like watching you. These are very heavy psychedelics. They usually the effects from those outside of the psychedelic aspect, a lot of them create, a lot of vomiting and diarrhea, and like while you're like in that, it to me does not sound appetizing. Would not want a part of that. But
so unless you're suicidal with depression, anxiety, and don't want to live, I don't recommend it, because a lot of people are just doing it.
This is one dosing.
One dose, yeah.
One dose.
It says the veteran saw an 88% decrease in PTSD,
88%.
87% decrease in depression, and 81% drop in anxiety.
I don't think there's any pharmaceuticals that come close to those kinds of numbers.
No.
And it's not something they have to be on long term.
Right,
like,
it's one dose.
One dose, and that's the improvement they've seen. Can you imagine taking somebody has chronic, suicidal attempts and thoughts, not to mention everything else, and getting an 88% reprieve? That's huge.
I know most antidepressants reduce depression by about 50%.
Gosh.
So like this one dose, and they have to be on it. They have to be on it for like a month or 2 months, sometimes 3, before they start to see the benefits.
Right.
And then they have to stay on it for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Versus this is a one dose thing, and it drops to 88% of the PTSD.
Right.
PTSD is awful. You can't sleep. You have nightmares. You're jumpy.
Right.
I mean,
it triggers you in all sorts of ways.
Headaches.
It depends on what it stems from.
But this study didn't have a placebo-controlled group, so that's so more studies need to be done.
Missing.
It does seem to be effective in this, and so anyways, there's a lot of hope. It says in the past, doctors have used psychedelics to address individual health issues using psilocybin. We talked about that one at a podcast too. The compound in magic mushrooms for depression or all the other stuff, and Ibogaine is unique in its apparent ability to treat multiple conditions simultaneously.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. They Marcus, who was also a traumatic brain injury patient and a football player and a Navy SEAL, he first took
professional football player.
Yeah, he took Ibogaine first in 2017, and then they founded in 2019 a nonprofit that would help people with counseling, monitoring, and things like that. So, there are organizations now that are helping veterans to be able to have access to this. So if you're someone that's struggling with that, please, do some research, look for these companies or these organizations, and reach out and see if that's something that can assist.
So Daniels said since the treatment, Daniels, the former Green Beret, started his own home improvement business. He also helps other veterans navigate such treatment options.
That's wonderful.
That's just such a happy ending. Again, it's nice that we started and ended the podcast with 2 happy endings.
Yeah, I love that.
So little kids can get the heart surgery that they need, and it's actually going to help 2 children, not 1, which is beautiful for each of those. And then our FDA is doing some backflips for us. Seems like they're trying to help, which is a good thing. Obviously, there's a lot of politics involved in drugs
Yeah.
and prices and all
But
that
maybe
stuff.
some of these things will help them tighten up and create some better
Yeah.
policies
Right.
that will protect us better because we struggle with that.
Don't ever think that we have more problems than other countries. If you talk to other countries, you look at England, you look at France, you look at Canada, you look at a lot of countries that on the
They have their
surface we
own.
think they have, they don't. We regularly talk to people with other countries, and I tell you what, they have more problems than us. So we actually have it good here, and
But we have things to fix.
we have things to fix, but it's best here than anywhere else. So, anyways, take care of your health. Share the podcast. Comment. Let us know what you think, and we'll be right back with another one in a week.
Thanks so much.